Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Rogue Wave podcast, the frequency for all things pop culture and the disruptors behind it. We talk comics, movies, TV, and pop culture every Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern, right here on Facebook.com/WeAreRogueMatter and YouTube.com/RogueMatter, Twitch.tv/WeAreRogueMatter, and Twitter.com/Rogue_Matter. I'm your host, Michael Dolce, as always, joined by my cohort in crime, the Lord of the Radio himself, Mr. Hassan Godwin. How you doing, sir?
I'm good. What's going on?
How did you spend your vacation, from the show last week?
I wasn't on vacation, so.
No, from the show. You were on vacation from the show.
Yeah, I know. I understand that. The distinction is that the word vacation implies some kind of like grandiose event of being elsewhere and not working, and that wasn't the case. So,
but you were not on the show last week, and
I
neither was I. I am a little more. I'm more tired coming back from the vacation than I am on the vacation, only because next week it's gonna be very exciting. We are moving into the official Sire Studios podcast studio. Very exciting, and you're gonna actually be in studio with me next week. Like, is that the most exciting thing you've ever heard?
In theory.
And then we can have the long-awaited Sire Studios holiday party, which got canceled last December or January due to heightened concerns over COVID. See, so it's finally happening 9 months later. It's like a baby. The holiday party is like a baby. We germinated the idea 9 months ago. Didn't you miss me? Didn't you miss this? I think you missed this.
I did. I was just thinking just now how much I missed this.
I can tell in your expression. I can see through your glasses.
I know.
All right, we've got a jam-packed show. Aaron too. Aaron can feel my pain though. Our producer extraordinaire, Aaron. She is also in the process of moving. I've been just moving into the studio. It's been crazy the last 6 days. I'm still not quite there, but it's going to look spectacular next week. We're going to have a spectacular show. We still have a spectacular show tonight, though. We have Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power debuted, and Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon debuted. So we're going to dive into all that stuff in a little bit. We're going to pit them against each other because Hassan loves when I do that. But really, it's just a cool way to get you guys to come sit down and check out the show, as if we pit them against each other. People like conflict, so we like to give people what they want. But first, Rogue Matter presents all the stuff that's happening on RogueMatter.com right now. RogueMatter.com is free, by the way. There is so much content on there. There's Time Trader episodes 1 through 4, or issues 1 through 4. There's McBride and Groom #1. Number 2 is coming out in October. We've got new series launching. We've got new book series. We've got our own fantasy series launching next month. It's going to be fantastic. It's called The Watchers. We've got so much stuff. Go check out RogueMatter.com. Every Wednesday, new content drops. Today, Data Decoded, which is she's a data guru and I'm a pop culture geek. It's my little it's my side gig here. Together, we are Data Decoded. Each episode, data guru Deanna McFadder, founder of Nachi, joins me to decode the data and technology behind some of our favorite story elements in movies, TV shows, and comic books. This week, Minority Report, and the idea of tracking, targeting, and facial recognition. How close are we to prediction-based crime solving? So that is all in this week's episode, which it's always very fascinating. There's a lot of stuff in today's news just about things like that. So
most of the technology in Minority Report we already have now. But there's no crime prediction because we don't really use precognitive people and throw them in a deprivation tank and make them predict murders without giving them a life of their own.
Well, that we know about.
They ain't working. If it is happening, it certainly ain't working.
No, but you know what's kind of cool though? My iPhone opens up with my face now. It's not cool in a way. I actually didn't select that, but somehow it's there, or maybe I did select it by mistake. I'm trying to get it.
That's the whole reason I didn't upgrade.
Yeah. It's like the face no, actually, no, sorry, it's my wife's phone recognizes the face, but it still gives me the password option too when I want to break into her phone.
Aaron, if I told you that, then I wouldn't have gotten away with it. So
Yes.
please don't ask questions I can't answer.
But no, so here's the thing. It definitely it's something
Well,
that
there's other
is
things like say you do a search on Amazon,
yeah.
and then you go on Facebook, and there's an ad for the very thing you search for on Amazon.
Yeah.
You know, so we are in the age of interactive social connectivity.
Yes.
Which is kind of scary, and that was predicted in Minority Report, where
Yeah.
like he's walking through, he can't actually get through a crowded area without an AI calling him out to try to advertise something to him personally.
Yeah, no, I think so.
Because of his
Yeah, and that's a weird
retinal.
thing too, because I was getting information on New York Comic Con, and one of the things that was being shown on New York Comic Con is like, do you want to do push notifications so that people come to your booth? And it's like when they walk by, it'll pop up, and I'm like, no, I don't. Like yes, I'm sure it's a great advertising opportunity, and it's great to get people to come to your booth. But no, like I feel like it's intrusive, and I feel like it's scary, right? Like I feel like there's something about that I don't like. So I'm not down with that. I'm not down with that. That's stuff they were talking about like 15 years ago, though. I was part of a technology company 15 years ago, and they were talking about doing exactly that. And I said it was very intrusive back then, and I said it's very intrusive now. But yeah, we're
obviously that factoid didn't slow anybody down because they went full steam ahead with it.
Yeah. Well, because why would they? I mean, it's one of those things too where anything sci-fi I find to be fascinating because I almost feel like sci-fi movies and TV shows are just a dreamer's guide to what an inventor will eventually just do. It's almost like it almost like plants the seeds for what an inventor would want to do, like an actual scientist, an actual engineer, an actual like inventor. Be like, hey, that sounds like a great idea because I saw that movie and now I want to do that, or I saw that
Yeah.
TV show.
Usually it's because people have read articles, or they keep up with the technological trends of the time, and then they figure out exactly where the technology is trying to go.
Yeah.
And then when they do their science fiction stories, they just embellish them to the next level, and then claim that the reality followed their art, when it's not really the way.
Yeah.
I mean, you could say Star Trek did it with flip phones. Star Trek,
Sure.
like life imitated art with flip phones, because there was no way they could know exactly what we would have,
right,
as personal communication. But other than that, most people are just kind of studying the leaflets and the articles of breaking science or burgeoning technology, and then they're just embellishing it in their science fiction stories.
But then that's spawning new. I feel like that is also spawning like the next generation of scientists to want to make these things reality.
Oh yeah, no
upping
doubt.
the game.
Probably so.
Very scary. All right, well, that is Data Decoded. It is up right now on all major podcasting apps. You can go to youtube.com/Rogue Matter. Check out Deanna McFadder. She knows her stuff. This is the season finale, by the way. This is episode 6. It's the final season of Data Decoded, final episode of Data Decoded. It's been a 6-episode run. Go check it out right now. Also, no, it's number 6. I think, or is it number 5? Number 5. Aaron's fixing me, but either way, I think it's the last episode. I think we only got 5 in the can. I'm almost positive. I think that's it. Yeah, there you go. It worked out good.
Are you sure? Are you
positive?
Know.
I don't know. I don't know. Moving is the worst thing you can possibly do. I don't even know where I am anymore. Like I feel like I'm somewhere and it's good, but no. At the same time, I have no idea. I'm just completely like.
All right, man.
I'm like trying to get that off. I'm trying to get that studio working for next week, bud. We got to get this.
Do you smell burning toast? Like, are you okay?
I hope not. Although I did find out after painting my office on Friday that I got a little bit of paint in an outlet. Don't stick your finger in the outlet. Does not, that old adage, very true. Because I'm like trying to pick it out of the outlet with my finger, and I'm like, ooh.
What do you?
It was 11 o'clock at night on a Friday. I had to get that. I was determined to get that office painted.
Don't electrocute yourself has absolutely no time reference, okay? It's not okay to electrocute yourself just because it was 11 o'clock at night.
I'm not saying it was okay.
It's never okay to stick your finger in a socket.
Well, no, but that's
no
my
matter
point.
what
It was
time
11
of night
o'clock
it is.
at night on a Friday, meaning my brain was not as aware of the old adage, do not stick your finger in an outlet.
Self-preservation is instinctive. It's not an intellectual thing. All right? So where was your sense of self-preservation?
That had left me. I was. You don't understand. You're going to see it. You'll see the studio is fantastic.
I don't know if I want to now.
It has gigantically high ceilings. So I was like literally stretching the whole time trying to get like it was a physical exertion that reminded me why I don't want to ever move ever again. Period.
Understood.
Ever again. Painting, I'll pay people to do it from now on. But I was like, I was supposed to have the building was supposed to do it, but then they're like, we can't do it till Sunday. And I'm like, I got to be moved in by Monday. I'm like, there's no way. Like, there's no way I'm getting that done. So yeah, I managed to do it. I am gonna have the building hang the TV though, because we gotta have a TV. It's a nice TV. No, it's not that nice. Really super old, but it's 37 inches, so that's big enough. Well, how else are we gonna watch all the cool stuff happening?
You keep saying we.
Well, just for that one day, you will.
Yes. Okay.
the minute
all
you show up,
that cool stuff that you're still not gonna watch. So
the minute you show up and I turn the TV on, the Wii prophecy has been fulfilled.
By road of technicality, absolutely.
Default, yes. Baby, by default.
It's not a default. It's technicality. You win by a technicality.
I could FaceTime you when I watch some stuff there.
That's still not us.
That is Data Decoded on RogueMatter.com.
The bottom line is that you won't even watch it when you have the TV in the office and you have the time to watch things. I predict that.
I'm anticipating
that's my
now.
prediction.
I'm anticipating now I will have more time to watch, or at least more peace and quiet. More peace and quiet.
All right. We'll see.
One other thing to check out every Wednesday as well, in addition to our podcast, it is the Badass Babes of Entertainment. They are welcoming on their 18th episode of season 2, Ivan McCombs, better known as Ramen King Ivan, across the internet. He's a content creator known for his out-of-the-box ramen recipes. Ivan has created a community he calls his Ram fan. It's probably Ram fan, but if it's ramen noodles, you're not going to say ramen noodles.
Probably sounds right.
Which he's grown to over 8 million followers in little over a year and a half. When asked what he does for a living, he simply tells people, I'm just playing with my food. That is like the quintessential like American dream right there. Right? Like I want to just play with ramen noodles and get paid for it.
Well, the get paid for it part, yeah. It's the quintessential American dream. I don't know how many people dream about playing with ramen noodle.
Well, no, they dream it's like, you know, like whenever you were in college or even just hanging out with your buddies and you're like, man, it's too bad we can't get paid for doing this. That's the American dream. Like kind of like us. Look at us. This is the American dream.
I understand what you mean. I get what you mean. But when you mention it, you specified playing with ramen noodle.
That's true.
So
that's true.
I'm clarifying that I'm pretty sure that's niche. That part is niche.
Let me ask you a ramen noodles question though.
Oh boy.
And maybe it's just
I can answer. I don't know if I'm in the headspace
no, it's a very
to answer
easy
a
question.
ramen noodle question.
When you eat ramen noodles, every time dream bigger. Aaron, you haven't lost anything in your move. That's good. Your brain is your brain is still there. Your humor is still there. When you eat ramen noodles, does it? Because this always happens to me. Does this happen to you where just all of it ends up in your mouth? Like there's no like I can't like it's either like you had one tiny noodle in your fork or you just clump everything together. Because that was always that was actually one of the reasons I stopped eating ramen noodles is because I was getting tired of the actual process of eating ramen noodles. That and I just didn't really like it very much. But does that happen to you where like it's just either it's like one noodle or it's a clump, or do you eat ramen noodles just fine?
Yeah, I really haven't had any problems with the ramen noodle thing. Yeah, that's not going in my book of things that give me agita. Which isn't extensive. I'm up to volume 27 right now, and that hasn't appeared in one of them.
Coming to the Sire Studios holiday party is like in the book, but not. But wait,
maybe so.
Check this out then. to ease your pain. That's what we'll eat. We'll have
Well,
ramen
one of the
noodles.
last times I came up there, I lost my credit card.
Well,
You know,
that's
so
true.
it's
Yeah.
like it's
It had nothing
got a
to do with
bad
the party, though.
no, but getting up there has got a bad track record for me. So yeah, that's gone
Oh,
in
you're
the
like
book.
1 for 3.
But there've been other things that we won't go into on the air. But ramen noodle, no, never a problem with ramen noodle. You know what? You got to be patient with it.
You just get the
I
whole
mean,
thing.
do you have the problem with spaghetti? Because ramen noodle is basically spaghetti.
Yeah, but spaghetti is on a plate, whereas the whole idea of ramen noodles is you got that you get styrofoam cup. Like when you're in college, you just throw right in the microwave.
No, you don't. You haven't had like genuine ramen. Like you haven't gone to a place and had ramen, right? That they give it to you in a bowl.
Oh, I have had that. Yes. No, I went to a ramen place.
So has that been a problem at the ramen place?
No, I think anytime it's in a presented to me in a natural and normal eating environment.
So this is really like a cup of noodle problem.
Yes.
It's not really a ramen problem.
Yes.
All right. So that's different. That's a little different. Understood.
So now that we've lost all of our viewership / listenership for this, let's go to break.
Your line of questioning.
Well, that's I just don't give an F. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. It's like, what do you want to talk about today? I want to talk about ramen noodles. And hey,
not
it's not
caring
even my fault.
Not caring.
You have the Ram fam on. I mean, what are you going to do?
That's a very good defense mechanism.
I think so. I think so as well. All right. When we come back, what you've all been waiting for. Rings of Power, House of the Dragon, pitting them against each other. Only one will survive. We'll have some Rogue reactions when we return. Welcome back to the Rogue Wave podcast. All right. I am on fantasy overload now. I think the nation is. I think the world is. Clearly, by the amount of people that watched these these shows, there's this fantasy overload. Whose bright idea was it to put them all on at the exact same time? That's the first question I have. Like, was it
both HBO and Amazon?
No, I know, but I understand that. But which one was like chicken and egg? Like, which one was like, we're gonna put out House of the Dragon here?
Since we knew about the Lord of the Rings show for maybe 5 years before it actually came out, I'm gonna put the blame on HBO for this one.
Okay.
Because House of the Dragon we only knew about a year ago.
Yeah. That's fair enough. I think that's a very, very good blame card to go around because
if we're gonna blame,
I will blame. I have no problem blaming.
Yeah,
I will definitely blame.
I know.
Not that I mind. So here's what I'm going to tell you right now. Okay, between the two shows, I lied. We're not really pitting them against each other because, quite frankly, I enjoyed both of them. I will give you a gun to your head question at the end, which is very predictable, and you'll know exactly what it is. But what's not predictable is what you will say. That's why I enjoy asking you those questions. But they really are two sides of the same coin. And I read an interview with the showrunner for House of the Dragon, and he was basically talking about how George R.R. Martin wrote Game of Thrones in response to Lord of the Rings, and kind of, it's a Lord of the Rings is supposedly medieval fantasy, whatever, and George R.R. Martin wanted to show like the dark side of things. And Lord of the Rings is more of, well, it's epic, it's a quest, it's a little more clean and polished. It's a little, less grim and gritty. And
he's very famous for saying he wanted to get into the intricacies of things. Say like Aragorn at the end of Lord of the Rings becomes the king. And then supposedly like everything is happily ever after.
Right.
And he's like, yeah, but what was his tax policy? And,
right.
Like,
right.
What if he was like a miserable king and he hated being king or something like that? So,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, so it's so this description of it fits. Like, so I binged House of Dragon 1 through 3, mainly because my wife wanted to watch with me, but we could not pull together a time where she was in the mood to actually sit down and watch TV. She's not a real big TV person, but she likes Game of Thrones. That used to be our show. We'll navigate it at some point. But I told her, I was like, Hassan is going to grill me if I don't watch these 3 episodes, so I have to watch them. She understood. She's like, you got to do what you got to do. And so I binged all
She's
3.
on my side now.
She's on your side. No, actually, she's on my side. I keep telling you, I'm exhausted at the end of the day, and I want nothing that's like heavy because we got kids and stuff. So she's like supporting my argument that it's really tough to get into stuff that's really heavy and heady. One thing I did notice about binging the first 3 episodes, even though quite frankly I binged the first 2 seasons of Game of Thrones way back when, but that was pre-kids, so it's totally different. I feel like they really make the show for week to week. I felt like it was very fast. Like the chronology of things went really fast. But I feel like if had I waited the presumed week in between, so in the first episode of, Game of Thrones, of House of the Dragon, it's, it's just the first, passing of the torch to the new king. And then by episode 3, it's like 9 years have passed or 6 years have passed or whatever, it's some massive time jump, which I found fascinating too, because as opposed to, let's say, the final season of Game of Thrones, the original Game of Thrones didn't feel rushed, but it's definitely surprising that much time passes in such a short amount of actual time. Like 3 weeks pass and it's, 6 years. I thought that was kind of fascinating.
It's very different in narrative style from the original show.
Right. Which makes me kind of wonder. It's like, and again, I'm not a book reader. I'm not a fan. I'm the geek. You're the nerd. You've read the books. You've read all the books that House of the Dragon is based off of, correct? The book, I should say.
It's not really a book to read. It's more like an encyclopedia.
Okay.
But I've read most of it. Yeah.
Okay.
And I have read the other books that the original show is based on.
Okay. All right. So, I mean, it's definitely something to where it doesn't feel rushed, amazingly enough. But I definitely think a week-to-week format, like this is made for week-to-week format. This is made for, you need to take a deep breath in between things. But it's surprising because, Matt Smith, who's fantastic, by the way. I love him because you think from the first episode he's going to be like this Joffrey-like, jerk. And he is. But he's got a side to him that he has his own ethic code. He has his own moral code. He has, his rules, I think, that he lives by. So I almost feel like he is the most rogue character, just to take a cue from our own show title. He kind of does things a little different. He does things his own way. And whether you view that as being
maverick.
Like, what's that?
He's a maverick.
Yeah. Well, I mean, whether or not you view him as likable or unlikable, that's I think up to you to decide. But he doesn't care. As a character, he doesn't care. He's going to do it. He's going to do what he thinks is right. Or I mean, maybe right's not the word, but the way he wants to do it, right? And in between episodes 2 and 3, I mean, holy cow, there's this entire war that's been going on with the crab feeder guy, and it's over like instantly. And it's like one of those things where I'm like, wow, that could have been a whole season. I almost feel like, like if this was Game of Thrones, the original Game of Thrones, that would almost be like an entire season with this battle and this, hunting down the crab feeder guy. And the thing also that I thought was interesting is the fact that unlike the original Game of Thrones, they don't have, they do have a good cast of characters, but it's so self-contained to obviously the House Targaryen that it's, not as expansive as what Game of Thrones is in terms of going, I mean, Game of Thrones is this, King's Landing and all of Westeros, and it's got, all these different places and all these different, characters, and then they're balancing. So it's almost a testament. It's almost giving a shout out to the original creators of Game of Thrones and George R. R. Martin himself too, obviously, for managing to pull off a show, the original, so well up until the last season. Whereas now Lord of the Rings, I go to Lord of the Rings and I'm like, man, they're world building. Like they are, I feel like they are actually world building way more than what the House of the Dragon is in at least in the first 2 episodes. And I enjoyed them. I enjoyed them for what they were. You've got your hobbits, you've got your elves, you've got things that are very relatable if you watched the movie, but I don't feel like you need to have watched the movies necessarily to enjoy this as a fantasy epic in and of itself. It's cool to know that she is Cate Blanchett's character and will eventually turn into Cate Blanchett's character, but other than that, there's nothing, really too pressing. I feel like they're building their own world, and it's not easy to do that, right? I don't know. It's not easy to do that. Those are my takes from watching both fantasy epics in binge format, mind you. What was your initial reactions?
Those are your takes, though. But so one is world building and the other one isn't. That's basically your observation.
That's all you got out of that? Like, I went through for like 10 minutes. I said,
yeah, I mean, a lot of it was kind of whimsical and fanciful, this and that, but you didn't really make any kind of observation other than you like Damon, you like you kind of like
I like them
both shows, yeah,
but I like them both for different reasons, and they can exist side by side for different reasons. And I think Lord of the Rings has a lot more legwork to do, to be honest with you, than House of Dragon. I think House of Dragon can lend itself to the fact that it's Game of Thrones. It feels like Game of Thrones, not just with the music, but also just the style and the tone. Like, they didn't diverge from the tone, which I think is
I think there's a lot of disingenuousness when it comes to that, because people are not acknowledging that there were pretty much 8 years of world building before House of the Dragon.
Mm-hmm.
So we walked into episode 1. We all knew what Dragonstone was, what King's Landing was, what Westeros was, who the Targaryens were, that they rode dragons, that all of that stuff. None of that legwork needed to be done.
Right.
And they didn't do it. Reason that they didn't do it is because they knew it had already been done. They didn't bother to do that.
Yep.
So, like, I've seen some takes on it. It's like, well, they just got right into it. They didn't bother with this long, sweeping world building and this and that. They just got right down to the heart of it, and that's a better way of telling stories. And that's like, well, that's BS, because they've had a decade worth of world building. They didn't have to. It's kind of like if Star Wars, the latest Star Wars movie decided to explain the Empire and the Rebellion, to you all over again. There's no need to do it. So, Lord of the Rings, even though it had 6 movies prior to this, the story of where the elves came from, now in Valinor, and why they are in Middle Earth, and where the hobbits came from, the Harfoots, before, a lot of that stuff has just been in lore.
Exactly.
And so they kind of have to explain it, especially if they're planning to, embellish a little bit and take a lot of creative license. So, I mean, they were in a rock and a hard place. They didn't have any choice but to sit down and kind of...
The original Game of Thrones built that in, like, it not just introduced a whole bunch of characters and juggled a whole bunch of characters, but it fleshed out entire worlds and entire lands and entire peoples to the point where, again, you knew everything, just like you said, you knew everything coming in. So there was no need to repeat that. It really is almost an extension of Game of Thrones versus its own thing. Whereas my take from Rings of Power, watching that, was, no, this is kind of almost brand new. I mean, this is almost brand new. I mean, there's, again, who the elves are, but they are role players to me in, you have a character who's an elf in the movies, right? But you don't, and he comes from there. He has a little bit of backstory, but they're not, because you only have, it's a movie, right? I mean, you only have so much time. You can't flesh this stuff out.
Also, so now the movie, they have the elves are basically leaving, so they're non-entities in most of the movies, because they're, the reason that the situation is so dire is because the elves are not helping them with the ring.
Right.
Because the elves are like, we're out of here, man. We're going home. Like, this place sucks. So we're out of here. And so this is kind of, whereas Lord of the Rings was the end of the reign of the elves.
Right.
This is the beginning. This is where they came from. And the elves are kind of, everything with the Lord of the Rings is very difficult because a lot of it is metaphysical,
Right.
and they don't, the metaphysical. Tolkien marries the metaphysical and the reality or the physical, in a very matter of fact way. But that's very hard to tell a story like, that's like us talking about working on Wall Street, but there's angels, every now and then you get visited by an angel. So it would be very hard to set that tone correctly, in order for you to be able to accept that there are some really supernatural elements to the elves, along with the fact that they could also be killed if you stab them with a sword. It's really hard to get that across. So yeah, the Lord of the Rings does have the help of the Peter Jackson movies and the several Tolkien books, both by both by Mr. Tolkien and his son Christopher Tolkien. But it really does have to dig its own ground and kind of stake its own. Now, look, it seemingly people were here for it, if you judge by the ratings, the number of people who watched.
Holy cow! Yeah.
Maybe that's just curiosity. We'll see how it goes this Friday. Maybe they were just curious with the first 2 episodes, and now we'll find out if the audience sticks around. So, I mean, look, I'm happy about Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon. I'm happy that it's good, and then I'm happy that it's got such a it's got accolades, and it's had such a good reaction from the fans. I think it kind of proves how much a whole was missing from Game of Thrones, like how much the people were ready to love Game of Thrones again.
Right.
That obviously didn't go away. So I think they were really smart. HBO was really smart to get this up and running like a good 2-3 years after the last one, because it was 2019, I think, was the series finale of Game of Thrones. So by 2022, we got another series. So it's still in our hearts and minds, and we haven't and also HBO was pretty brilliant, because if they had done it a year from now and House of the Dragon had a chance to stake its claim with no competition, but Game of Thrones came around again, people might not have been in the mood for their version or their style of kind of grim fantasy storytelling. So it's good to have the both of them side by side. Maybe hopefully they will be able to coexist without there being a lot of negative competition and either or, and they can actually share the same space. It'd be interesting to see if that happens. They are two very different kinds of stories, and they're two very different kinds of basically almost different kinds of genre, because one is very grim dark,
right,
and the other one is like really high fantasy. I mean, really high fantasy.
Yeah, I know.
So we will see, but I agree with you. I did enjoy both of them. I was ready to enjoy House of the Dragon a lot more than Lord of the Rings. I was very skeptical, or weary. I wasn't skeptical. I was more weary. Like, oh man, I hope this is not a dog's ear. I hope I enjoy this. And I was happy that I did. We'll see how the rest of the season goes. But basically, I have nothing really negative to say about either of them, which is very strange. I feel very odd and kind of out of place, because I don't really have anything bad to say about either one of those things. And that's weird. That's really weird.
What makes this question the hardest. Gun to your head. You got to watch one. And okay, I'll take you into my head. A second here, as I pose the
gun to myself. By the way, like, am I confident that they're going to pull the trigger of this gun, or is it just like, come on, man, you're not going to shoot? I know. Like, who's holding? It depends on who's holding the gun.
Why would they do this? I don't understand.
So, like, yeah, this is dumb.
Oh, Erin's got the gun to your head. Got the gun to your head.
All right, yeah, she'll shoot. Okay, so.
Why would you do this? It doesn't make any sense. Oof, I just came up.
Clearly, Aaron wants me to pick a fantasy.
What a plot for a horror movie now. Gun to your head, and some random killer just put the gun to your head and asks a pop culture question.
That's kind of creepy.
Right? Yeah. Patent pending. Hey, you can't do it. This is us. Patent pending.
Well, that'll do it.
there are a lot of right. There are a lot of
We're safe
times.
now.
There are a lot of times where it just depends what I'm in the mood for, right? I'll say this: I started watching Lord of the Rings first. So I guess my instinctual answer would then be it's got to be Lord of the Rings, right?
Right.
But then I started, I got through maybe the first 20 minutes of Lord of the Rings. I had to stop. And I was like, all right, let me try House of the Dragons. I saw the first 15 minutes of House of the Dragon. And then I was like, I got to keep watching. And then I watched all 3 episodes. Then I went back to Lord of the Rings. So then my other instinct would be, well, maybe it's House of the Dragon. Maybe that's the one I want to see more. But just gut reaction, I'm like, I kind of like, because Lord of the Rings, or Rings of Power, I should say, we'll keep it distinctive. Because Rings of Power is such an unknown to me, I'm actually more curious. Does that make sense? Like it's almost like Game of Thrones, I'm going to enjoy more, but I know I'm going to enjoy more. But there's a ceiling to how well I'm going to enjoy it, I feel. Versus Lord of the Rings, I don't know what that ceiling is because it really is a total unknown to me. So I almost, gun to my head, I would say Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power. Even though I'm enjoying House of the Dragon more right this second.
Wow. So gun to my head, which would I pick? And I can't. And there's no way to watch the other one even after the fact. Like 10 years from now, I still won't be able to watch the other one because I still have that gun to my head. Like I have to choose the one.
I got to be honest,
forever.
I never thought that far. I don't
See,
know.
that's what I'm saying. There's always a loophole. You got to look for the loopholes.
That's a big. Well,
it's Aaron's kind of violent. Okay.
Well,
I would
no.
agree with you. I would
The real
say,
question is that a future plot point in the horror movie we just created, called Gun to Your Head?
what the fact that you can wait it out and you just come back to it. It's like, yeah, I'll watch Lord of the Rings
is
now.
Is there a wrong answer? Like, is Aaron going to pull the trigger if you say Rings of Power, but not if you say House of the Dragon?
You're gonna have to come up with an answer for that because like everyone's gonna go, yeah, but it's streaming. So like as soon as the person leaves with the gun, you could just sit down and watch
I
Lord of the
wouldn't
Rings.
watch anything. I would go get a new pair of pants. That'd be the first thing I did.
Always that extra sentence. I would agree with you. I would say probably Lord of the Rings, just because I'm curious to see where it goes. You know, I'm hoping they'll all, you know, when we have all 8 episodes, that we're going to be like, wow, that was really like on par with those movies. You know, and that was another really fantastic edition of the Lord of the, you know, the cinematic, or the live action Lord of the Rings canon. So yeah, even though, because I kind of know, I don't know what we're in for with House of the Dragon, even though I read the encyclopedia. I do know what's going to happen. I don't know how it's going to be portrayed. I don't know how well it's going to work out, or how beautiful it's going to be, or how ugly or how gross it's going to be. So yeah, I still want that, but I kind of know what's coming. I don't know what the Lord of the Rings is you know, going to do yet. And because this is basically fan fiction, because they couldn't get the rights to the Silmarillion,
right?
Because Christopher Tolkien's like, no, I'm done. I don't even like the Peter Jackson movies. I'm done with this. Like, no one's making, you know, this estate is not allowing you to make anything.
Yeah.
So this is basically, but we still have the Lord of the Rings book, and we got the appendices, and we're making a show.
Yeah.
So meh. All right. So like, even if you give us the Silmarillion, we could probably make a fantastic show. But since you're being a big jerk, we're just gonna make a show we can make out of the appendices of Lord of the Rings. So I'm curious to see where it goes. So I'm curious to see what they do, and I'm really hopeful for them. But basically, what I would really do is I'd be like, you know what? I'm not gonna watch either of them because I really care about why Aaron wants to kill me in the first place for watching a fantasy show. And I would lull her into a false sense of security while secretly I've called 911. And then as soon as the cops come and get her, I'm going to watch both of them. I'm binge watch both of them. That's how the movie ends, by the way. You just like open your phone and you speed dial 911 while the person is like,
No, the movie ends in a meta
giving
way.
you their manifesto as to why they're holding a gun to your head in the first place.
No,
and then the cops show and take them away, and then
that's the middle of the movie. That's the middle of the movie. The end of the movie is that they then make a movie about your harrowing experience. And then the killer shows up at the movie. See, that's the thing. It's like, got to take it that step further.
Yeah.
Got to go meta.
Yeah, you're way more invested than I am.
I'm literally making this as soon as we get out of here. As soon as we're done with this, I'm putting this down on paper.
I'm just like, why is she holding a gun, dude? Like, what's going on?
Yeah. All right. What do you guys think?
Why do you care which fantasy show I like? I would honestly be killed because I'd be too busy wondering, like, what are the nuances of this? Like, what's the purpose of this in the first place? So yeah,
that's everything you could have done today. Why you do this?
Yeah, exactly. I'd be asking too many questions.
Ooh, I just had an idea as to why, but I'm not telling you. I've told the audience enough. It's my story. Stay away. Stay away. What do you guys think? Pour it into the comment section. We will be commenting and replying to you all week long. Go check out youtube.com/Rogue Matter. Go check out roguematter.com. Check out all the cool content we've got. We've got the next couple weeks. We've got the closing chapters of Seal of Fire, Until I Die. Kingdom of Tundo's coming to a close as well too. So a lot of cool stuff on the site. Go check it out. Next week we will go all around the Rogue. I want to dive into DC a little bit because there's some back and forth with
stuff on the horizon for that.
Yeah. Well, not just the outer workings, but the inner workings. They're trying to find their Kevin Feige.
There's stuff on the horizon.
They haven't found their Kevin Feige. They canceled DC Fandom for this year. They're doing a lot. They're doing a lot. So we're gonna dive a little bit. We'll go all around the Rogue, and we will, of course, dish on any latest news or trailers or anything cool that comes out in between now and then. We will see you folks next week. Hi guys, Mike Dolce here from the Rogue Wave podcast. If you like this video, please feel free to like, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. It really helps us out. Leave a comment, let us know what you'd like to see in future episodes, and tune in every Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern for a brand new episode of the Rogue Wave podcast.